Well, hello there. Welcome back to the Glass Box, a podcast and a platform meant to help guide people to authentic liberation. Here, we dive into all kinds of different topics, ranging from the personal to the political. Everyone who joins me here is a revolutionary who is meant to change the world. And you, listening to us, are part of that. So welcome. Full transparency, because after all, this is a glass box, right? This interview, this conversation, was originally recorded in July 2024. At the time of this recording, it's now September 2025. You might be listening to this the day that it drops, or X amount of years down the road. What is time? That is a conversation for another episode. This one, well, human design, nutrition, a little bit of fitness. Honestly, it kind of sets the framework or the foundations for embodied design. Anyway, if you're listening to this intro and you're like, okay, Emily, get to the fucking point. Here it is. Welcome back to the Glass Box. Sit back, relax, buckle up, and enjoy the ride. It's gonna get a little bit rocky, a little bit messy, a little bit wild, and a lot of fun. With love, Kai. Just kidding. You know who I am. Hey, Kelly, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to see you.
It's great seeing you. For those of you who are unaware, Kelly and I met 3 months ago now on a retreat in Mexico that focused on human design. And Kelly is a registered dietitian. So we're going to dive in a little bit today about how she uses her knowledge of human design to revolutionize the nutrition and dietitian industry. All right.
Sounds amazing. I'm so excited. Yes.
All right. So Kelly, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now.
Oh my goodness, that is a very big question. Well, it all started in college when I took my first nutrition 201 class, and I fell in love with the teacher. And there was just something about the information that was sticking in my head. Like I barely had to study for the final because I just remembered it all. And I thought, okay, this is a really good sign. Like I really am interested in this area of learning because initially I was a biology major, and after I took that nutrition class, I decided to change my major to nutrition. And I decided I wanted to become a dietitian. I went to this nutrition club meeting that they had at my college because dietetics was a major that they had at my college, ironically. So that was pretty lucky. And when I was at the nutrition club meeting, there were all kinds of dietitians at this one in particular that were talking about what they did for their career as a dietitian, because there's a lot of different avenues that you can go toward as a dietitian. And one of them there was a sports dietitian. And I was like, what? That's a thing? Yes, I want to work with athletes. So that in that moment, then I knew I wanted to do sports nutrition and I wanted to work with athletes and I wanted to pursue a degree in dietetics. So that's when I changed my major. And I have worked in quite a few different areas of nutrition, and one of them being sports nutrition, which I loved that job. And then I met my husband, my soon to be husband, while I was working at that job. So I moved for him because I was at the age where I was like, I have focused on my career for 30 years now, and I think he's the one. So I gave that up, but I still was like really wanting to pursue sports nutrition because that's what I had done for the last 2 years and I loved it. And I did. Continue sports nutrition for quite a long time. And I've worked with women, infants, and children and their nutrition. I've done dialysis, like kidney disease nutrition. I've done counseling. I have done quite a few different nutrition careers. And I got a job about 12 years ago working for a website that sells supplements, nutrition supplements. And they hired me to do videos and write blogs. And I fell in love with this job. And I still actually work this job now to this day. And it really opened my eyes to this idea of functional medicine, holistic health, a holistic nutrition approach, functional nutrition, because the company I work for, that's what they're built on, is like functional medicine. That's what they design their supplements around, is like a holistic approach to helping different systems of the body. And so for the last 12 years, that has been my focus, which was so different than how I was trained as a dietitian, many years ago. And also I had my own journey with my health where in my second pregnancy, I had low thyroid and I had never had any health issues ever. That was my first time having to go to a doctor for like real health stuff. And after I had him, my thyroid just wouldn't bounce back. And I felt horrible. I felt so tired and my hair was falling out. Even though I was breastfeeding and I stopped nursing after like a year. I think I nursed him for 14 months. And once I stopped, my hair fell out, which is normal, but it was falling out a lot and for a very long, it like basically did not stop falling out. And this is when I realized my thyroid has not bounced back. And I went to 4, 5 different like conventional doctors. And they didn't help me at all. One of them tried to ask me if I needed like some like mental, I don't even know what it's called, medication for like mental health, because I depressed? Was I down? But I think that was just a byproduct of having a low thyroid. And so then I went to a functional medicine naturopath. And I still see her. I just saw her yesterday. She's amazing. She literally changed my life because when she saw my labs, she's like, oh yeah, no, this is not okay. But then, whereas the other doctors were telling me, you're fine, it's fine, just switch medications. And so finally I felt heard. Finally, I found somebody who was getting to the root cause of what the heck, why was my thyroid low? Why did I feel terrible? Why is my hair falling out? And so that really then matched up with learning about functional medicine. So they went hand in hand. I found somebody to help me from that approach, and I was learning about it, and I have not changed paths since then. So when I work with my nutrition clients, this is my focus. We look at everything. We look at sleep, stress, environmental toxins, of course, nutrition, self-love, emotional health, mental health, all of the things.
I love that. I love too how you brought up, because I feel like it's something that people are becoming so aware of now, is traditional medicine is very much like we're supposed to look at these people as, well, you're the experts. You went to school for over a decade, I think it is, to like become a doctor, right?
Yeah.
So you should know everything, but the end all be all is ultimately, here, take another medication that corporations created. So like, does it actually help? Like, that's a whole different tangent that we could go on and that I could go on. But just that shift between, okay, here, take this medication versus what is the root cause? Like, there's not just one thing.
Yeah.
There's always multiples, and we may not know what that is, but we need to dive into it.
Yes, exactly. There's usually almost always several things
Yeah.
happening. that are causing the symptoms.
Mhm.
So then if I had low thyroid, which I did, and I still do to some extent, like why? And there was a lot involved, like stress and sleep
Mhm.
and needing adrenal support because there are quite a few things that impact the thyroid gland, gut health. So then it's looking at all of that and fixing all of that.
It's a lot.
Stress is the one thing that's keeping me from healing, I would say.
Yeah. What are some things that you think, because there's there's so much information out there right now in terms of how we can become healthier and fix these problems, right? What are some of your go-to things that you advise your clients that are like easy to start implementing and it's like it's not too complicated?
Mhm. That's a good question. It really honestly depends on the person's chart, to be honest with you. So I'm looking at the solar plexus.
Mm.
Is it undefined? Is it defined? What channel do they have? How are they processing emotions? Because when it comes to food, I can tell them, like, I can set the container for how to eat, the most optimal way to eat to stabilize your blood sugar, to improve your gut health, to get all the vitamins and minerals and the protein and all this. So we can say we can work together on that and do that. And if there's something going on below the surface that we're not addressing, those changes are not really going to last long term.
Mm.
And that's my goal, is to make these changes sustainable for the long term. So that's when I look at the emotions, because emotional eating is like such a common thing, or not trusting your body and not following your body's cues and what your body wants to eat in the moment. That's a very conditioned thing in eating also. And so addressing that emotional side of eating is something I always talk about with my clients, and also their nervous system, because like I said earlier, stress plays a huge part in food choices or weight gain also, because stress releases cortisol, and cortisol is very inflammatory, and you get this insulin response. Often cortisol will impact blood sugar. And then insulin is then involved. Insulin promotes fat storage. So anybody who's very stressed out, whether it be from not sleeping enough or just stress from work or whatever the case may be, then that's really hard to lose weight that way. So they can eat all the right stuff and be at the right calorie level, for example. But if they're stressed and their nervous system is not happy and they're not addressing their emotions in a healthy way or coping in a healthy way, then we have to talk about that.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'm kind of, their dietitian, I'm kind of fighting a losing battle, and it's not going to help them for the long term. So I always look at the solar plexus, um, and each of the gates in the solar plexus. Well, first, let me just say the solar plexus is connected to the breath. The diaphragm is in the solar plexus. And so, like breath work, I find that so fascinating, because using breath work and meditation and um, anything that can help you connect to your breath is so important for anything in the solar plexus. And so, depending on what they have, that's where we go deeper into that area of their chart. So that's just one example of where I can look in somebody's chart and really dissect what could be going on here. And I have an undefined solar plexus, and so do you.
Mm.
And this has been my hugest learning lesson in life since finding out human design. Well, even before human design, I was so closed off. I repressed so much emotions. I didn't want to feel anything. I blocked stuff. I didn't let myself cry. I didn't want to cry. And now we know that, like, crying and releasing that is so important. Otherwise, stuff stays stuck in you. And if I'm going through something that's uncomfortable emotionally and I'm turning to food in those moments, like, I want to help my clients make that connection.
Mm. I have so many questions. I'm like so curious about this. Like, okay. Mm. Do you find a difference between how people cope with either undefined or defined solar plexus, and how that influences their nutrition?
Yeah, I think it does make a difference for sure, because somebody with an emotional wave, they have their emotional energy that they're creating all the time. Like it's a mechanical energy. And even just that is so helpful to teach somebody, because a lot of times my clients come to me, they don't know their human design. And so when we can talk about the emotional piece and describing what their wave might feel like, and understanding that when you're in a high or in a low, does food come into play during either of those areas? And if so, how can we use some non-food ways to cope with that? Because this is just ongoing for your life, and healthy ways to process those emotions, if especially if it's a very intense emotional wave. And so how can you let yourself go to the depths of that wave, no matter how deep and dark it might feel, knowing that you're going to come out of it? And how can you cope down there when you are feeling low, in a way that won't completely sabotage your health goals?
Mhm.
And then with the undefined solar plexus, they don't have the way emotional wave, but it feels amplified. Outside emotions feel amplified. And in a way, I have noticed undefined or open solar plexus, like they're really sensitive to emotions, because their baseline is like cool, calm, and collected.
Mhm.
So any little peak up or down feels like a lot in a lot of cases. And so what's happening with your nervous system there? Uh, do you have healthy ways to clear that out of your body so that it's not getting stuck in there, or you're not confusing it for your own emotions, and you're not using other vices like alcohol or food or smoking or something to help soothe that, versus you can find ways to do it on your own that doesn't involve vices, if that makes sense. And I think that can go either way as well. There's definitely some nuances, but those are some things I've noticed in general with the solar plexus. Also, let me add another thing is people who have an undefined solar plexus. I've worked with people where somebody with a defined solar plexus comes into their aura, say like a mom working with a mom that has kiddos, or a mom, or a husband and wife situation. And the moment the person with the big emotions or the wave comes into their aura, all of a sudden they feel like they need to eat something.
Mm.
And so just that awareness and trying to break that is so helpful, because when we're talking about trying to say lose weight, for example, those extra calories add up fast. When you're not technically hungry, it's just an emotional, like a kind of like a false appetite,
Mhm.
false sense of appetite. So if we could just start to deal with the emotions in a very productive way, this is going to be so helpful for the long term.
That's fascinating. Like I hadn't made the connection about like having an undefined solar and then someone come in with an emotional wave, and if you turn to food to kind of like stabilize yourself, that can be a huge trigger. Like, damn. Okay.
Absolutely can.
Wow. I also
Because,
like, oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say, because I'm looking at a chart right now, and several of these gates are deep emotions. Like gate 30, gate 36, those are really deep emotions. And depending on if whether it's a wave or not, connected like as a full channel or just a gate, it can be quite uncomfortable, especially if you're not sure what's happening. And so those are really prone to turning to food or other vices to soothe that, and almost try to make it go away, to cope with it.
Right. So, okay. So if you have an undefined and you've got those hanging gates, you don't have the full channel. Do you feel like that amplifies things even more versus if you have an open solar and no hanging gates?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're still feeling the 30 or the 36,
Mhm.
even in an undefined solar plexus. It might be inconsistent, but then when it does show up, it might even be a little confusing. Like, what am I feeling right now? I feel really overwhelmed because it's not maybe, well, it could be their emotions, but they're just not sure where it's coming from.
Right.
At least this has been my experience. I have gate 30. It's my only gate in my solar plexus, and it's actually in my unconscious Mars, which is the core wound area.
Ooh.
And so feeling deep emotions has been something that's been such a like a weakness, quote unquote weakness for me. Like I did not want to feel deep feelings at all. And then at some point in my life, I realized I'm actually quite good at feeling deep feelings and talking about deep feelings. It's just that I never really learned or practiced it very much at all as a kiddo. And so I didn't know how to deal with it. And what was happening was I was turning to a lot of like sugar and probably like processed foods to dissipate that like nervousness that was in my kind of coming from my solar plexus that was in my body settling at the end of the day. And I would just turn to sugar.
Mm.
And ever since I found out that gate 30 and 36 actually can be connected to sugar or any kind of substances, then that has really, really helped me figure out, okay, oh, is this just a reaction I'm having because I need to release some emotions? Or, what is going on? Why am I having this craving?
Right. So for those people listening in who aren't as familiar with human design are like, what the fuck are they talking about with these gates and like the numbers?
Okay. Yes.
Can we dive a little bit into like gate 30 and 36 then? If those are, and any other ones that you think are really important to know with diet and nutrition, what are those gates? And like what do they kind of represent?
For the solar plexus?
Mhm.
Okay. So gate 30 is the gate of deep feeling, and it is linked to hunger. In fact, gate 41 is on the other end of it in the root, and gate 41 is like the hunger initiator. It's the very first gate and the very first gate of the human design new year. So it's the hunger initiator. And then gate 30 wants to feel some deep shit. Like it wants to have a deep experience. Like it wants to feel deep things. And so what I've noticed is for me personally, back in the day, that was very uncomfortable for me. Like I repressed that deep feeling. So then I would use food to like try to get rid of it, right? Try to get rid of it. But then what I've noticed lately, because I'm more embracing my ability to feel deep feelings, and I actually quite love like these deep experiences. If I find that I'm a little bored in my life or my day feels stagnant, then I'll reach for, say, sugar or processed foods to like give me some sort of dopamine rush to like have an experience.
Mhm.
So I'm like seeking an experience. And this is, I think also could be the same for gate 36 because it's in the same circuitry stream at 30, it goes on the outside and the collective up the other side. So I feel like it's very similar in that regard with the 36 as well.
Mhm.
And then with the individual circuitry in the middle there, the 55 and the 22, first of all, it's connected to breath. So breathing is always like a high priority, especially the 22. And then this is also called the stream of music. So I know this isn't food related, but there's something with music and the tone of music that can really help soothe those emotions for people. And so that's just another tip I would have for people with this gate is, do you like music? Like what kind of music sounds good when you're in an emotional low or you're trying to find a way to soothe your emotions in some kind of way? Turn on music, see what happens, and be picky about the kind of music because the tone really matters here.
Mhm.
And then, those deep feelings of the 55 and the 22. I mean, clearing the emotions or sitting with the emotions is so important with the emotional wave. Like I said earlier, swallowing is here. And if you want to cry, cry. Like I tell my clients that a lot because if you're swallowing your tears, that represses the emotions deeper and it is more likely to keep them stuck. And so don't swallow your voice. Don't swallow your words out of grace because 22 is grace and 22 wants to stay graceful. And so if they're just like swallowing down, I feel that can even do some damage to the thyroid if they have that full channel 2212, because then you're just like repressing what wants to come out. for the sake of like maintaining grace. So I always tell people grace is possible no matter what. Just be honest, be like authentic and honest in how you're feeling, because you can still then speak what you want to say, but be honest. You can have the grace with it, but don't swallow down your emotions there. Gate 49, the gate of the revolutionist, the great gate of also rejection. This is one that I have seen really impact people, is this feeling of rejection. So gate 49, people typically have a tendency to just feel rejected no matter what. And so here, ask yourself, am I really being rejected right now? Because I feel rejected, but are they really rejecting me? Or am I kind of just feeling in my head, depending on what's going on, what else is going on in their chart, that I'm being rejected, even though I'm not necessarily being rejected? They're just maybe they had a change of plans, so they canceled on you, but that doesn't mean they're rejecting you for life. So this is very sensitive to rejection, I've noticed with people. In fact, you have this gate. How do you resonate with rejection?
I was gonna say, like, when you were talking about it, I'm like, I have it twice. So I have it.
Oh, it's in your core wound.
It's my core wound, and it's my unconscious Mars, and then it's also my conscious moon.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's a very heavy theme in my life. And I didn't make the connection really until you were talking just now, that when I feel rejected, my go-to thing is, let me go eat something.
Yeah.
And like, I've made that connection before, but not in terms of connecting it to human design. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, that is so helpful to know that.
Yeah.
And it almost gets you off autopilot, like these subconscious, because the 49 in your core wound is in your subconscious. And I believe that you can bring those subconscious things to your awareness, and they're running in the background always, but now you might be able to notice it. And when you notice yourself going to the fridge or the pantry or the store to get something because you're feeling rejected, it's easier to stop. Or not stop. But then you've made the conscious decision to say, okay, I'm going to have this ice cream or whatever it is, and this is why, and then move on. But at least it's aware. You have awareness about it. That to me is the most important thing.
Yeah, the awareness is definitely key, for sure.
Yeah. And so then the gate 6 is the gate of friction, and this is where all the waves come together. So this can be like kind of all over the place type of emotions. They're very subtle though, in some cases, depending on who you're around. This gate 6 can really feel more amplified when it's with other people. And this one's interesting. I'm not exactly sure how this one is linked to nutrition necessarily, but it is tribal and it is about friction. So like, where are you creating friction in your relationships out of fear or out of, just having really tight boundaries up all the time and not wanting to be vulnerable and be, sharing how you feel, what your emotions are. And so I've seen that show up with gate 6. And then gate 37, the gate of friendship. I love that gate. And that's also another tribal gate. And it's known as like the mother. And the full channel is the mother and the father. So when I see clients that have this full channel, 4037, I am like, and I look at their root center. What is their pressure? Do they have a lot of pressure to do? And if they have an undefined root with this channel 4037, almost always they're doing everything for their family. They're doing everything for everybody else. And that can quickly lead to burnout.
Right.
And so there's a little coaching on like, what do you want? Because this is a tribal. It's here to support people. It likes to support people. It wants to have community and friendship all around them. And that's amazing. And also, what about you? Like, don't forget about you and don't get so burnt out that it affects your health. Yeah. So that's kind of a nutshell of the solar plexus gates. And each gate in the human design chart is linked to a certain body part. And then the solar plexus itself as a center is also linked to some areas in the body, such as the nervous system is here, the diaphragm, like I said earlier, so breathing. The pancreas is here, kidneys are here, and I think a couple others I can't think of off the top of my head, but but that's another area to look at as well. So when I've gotten my health history from the clients that I work with and figured out like what's going on with them, that's when I can start to target like certain areas of the chart. They'll jump out to me like, oh, okay, I can see how possibly their symptoms or their health issues maybe could be showing up in specific areas of their chart.
Mm,
That's usually how I start because that helps me hone in
right.
on what to start focusing on initially, like what to prioritize,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Because I think everybody is so different.
Yeah.
So what I work on with one person is completely different than another person.
Right. That's so fascinating.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I'm starting to make connections with things like you. Okay. I've been focusing obviously on like nutrition and fitness and everything, personal trainer, like that's just, I focus on that. But I've also been diving into relationships. And when you brought up six, gate six, and how you weren't quite sure how that plays into nutrition,
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at gate 59 then too. And like gate 59 is all about like intimacy and like sensuality and
Yeah.
sexuality and relationships. And it's like, okay, if you're experiencing friction in your relationships, are you going towards food to like suppress that?
That's a really good point. You're right. That's true. Any kind of turbulence
Right.
in any type of relationships, I would say, yeah, yes, I definitely think that that could be a reason why people go to food
I think
because
it's
this is
just interesting.
relational.
Yeah. And it shows like how it's a holistic thing. Like it's not ever just one thing. Like you need to look at so many different aspects of your life.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and different parts of their chart too,
Yeah.
because everything is connected, just like in functional medicine, functional nutrition, holistic health, like everything is connected. It's all a system. And that's literally what the human design chart is. That's why I love it so much.
Hmm. What are other areas of the human design chart that you focus on with your clients?
Well, obviously, I look to see if they're sacral or non sacral.
Mhm.
And I am a sacral manifesting generator, and you are a
Self.
self-projected projector. So I have a defined sacral, you have an undefined sacral. And that makes a really big difference with clients because if I'm working with a manifester or a projector or a reflector, then that's really helpful for me to know that they don't have like the sacral motor all of the time. And so what motors do they have? Or do they have no motors? And then what are they doing in their day as far as exercise? Once I had a splenic projector and she was exercising so much, like running 45 minutes to an hour, 5 days a week. Like she was working out hard. And I'm not here to say that that's wrong because it varies from person to person. I just wanted to bring awareness to her, like, where are you pushing yourself to the point where you're over your reserves? Like you only have so much reserves as a non-sacral person. And can you notice when you're tapping into that? Because that's when I think it can create stress on the body where it actually will cause more harm than good. At that, if you've pushed yourself too much in the exercise field or realm, then you do create inflammation. It does trigger the stress hormones. And then you're walking a fine line because that's could potentially lead to burnout, but it also almost defeats the purpose
Mhm.
of the exercise, I guess, based on what your goals were, but her goals were to lose some body fat. And so backing down on that a little bit can be so helpful for the non-sacrals, or even validating the non-sacrals when they don't have the energy to exercise. And I'm like, that's okay. That's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with you. This is how you're designed. It's okay. Let's figure out other ways that you can fit it in. Maybe the time of day matters. Are you eating properly to give yourself enough energy? Because when I think about energy, of
Mhm.
course, I look at sacral versus non-sacral, what other motors in the chart they have. So other motors would be the ego center, the emotional solar plexus is also a motor, and the root center, plus the sacral center. So How are those operating? And then I also look at sleep and whether you're getting deep quality sleep, how your sleep is. That's so important to look at. And then when it comes to energy, I look at, well, we talk about like mitochondrial health, or I'm thinking in my mind, could their mitochondria be damaged in some kind of way? Do they have a lot of toxicities? Um, what are they exposing themselves to from the environment that could be putting a burden on their liver, which then can impact their mitochondria? And so those are the areas that I like to consider with sleep, is you have like energy, like human design energy, or not sleep. Sorry. That's those are the areas I'd like to focus on for energy, because we can see energy in the human design chart, but then also sleep. And then are you doing stuff that you love? That's important too, as a sacral and non-sacral. Like, are you in your zone of genius? Are you working on what fascinates you as like a projector? And then as a generator or manifesting generator, are you doing more things that light you up in your day? Like, do you have more yeses in your day than nos? Like, I hope so, because that can really make a difference in your joy and your happiness and your energy. And then mitochondria. So those are some things I consider right away when I'm working with somebody, is the overall energy. Because a lot of people come to me where they want more energy and they're just tired.
Right.
So we have to look at all the things, all the aspects involved in that. And then thyroid is important as well, because thyroid is what kind of dictates your metabolism. Because if your thyroid is suboptimal, then you are going to be tired. And then your adrenals, are your adrenals healthy? Are you feeding your adrenals the nutrition that they need to recover and function well? Or is there a lot of stress? And it's could be tanking your adrenals, which then therefore tanks your thyroid, which then therefore tanks your gut microbiome. And then that affects your mental health. So everything is so connected. So I'm trying to suss out, when I work with patients or clients, what's going on here, like where's the priority, and having their human design chart in front of me is so helpful. It kind of takes away a lot of the guessing
Mm,
from my perspective.
right. It would be interesting to see what would happen in the nutrition industry if implementing human design into like the scientific basis that has existed for like however long, the logic that our society is based on, like how that would shift things. Because like we've got this epidemic going on. I don't know if epidemic is the right word, but like people are feeling burnt out and exhausted, and
Mhm.
like they're following these rules that we know so much about because the science is there, the logic is there, but it's still like not working, at least not as efficiently as we want it to. And it's like, what would happen if the industry started actually using this and this became part of the new norm? Like,
It would be amazing. I would love that.
right?
I would love that, because to me, this is so functional medicine gets to the root of the issue. To me, this is like the ultimate root. This is your energetic DNA. And so, yeah, we can say, eat 90 grams of protein and make sure you're taking your omega-3 supplements and get your vitamin D. Like, that's the science, that's the logic. And that's amazing. That's all so important. And what we've been talking about already are the underlying energetics. Is it sustainable for this person? What is going on in their body, in their cells, that's prohibiting them from like making changes that can support their health goals? So yes, I freaking love that, because I have an example where I was working with a projector. She was a splenic projector, lots of undefined centers, and she was the cross of tension. And so for those of you who aren't too familiar with human design, your incarnation cross is your life purpose. It's like 70% of your personality. It's a huge gift of who you're here to be. And with this cross of tension, it's about, it consists of gate 38 and 39, which are also in my cross. So I'm very familiar with this energy. And my son, my 12-year-old, has the cross of tension. So gate 38 and 39 are in the root center. And gate 38, it's one of the names is the fighter, or the gate of opposition, but it's like fighting for meaning, fighting for purpose. And then gate 39 is the gate of provocation. You're like provoking to feel something. You're provoking the spirit in somebody to evolve. and get them out of their limiting mindset or their limiting beliefs. But then also part of the cross attention is gate 48. It's depth. It is the well of depth from the spleen. And then gate 21 from the ego center is like the manager, and they're here to manage the material world. So when I was working with this projector, it was so beautiful to work with her cross, because, you know, she's the guide and I respect her as the guide. And if she has gate 38 is like the opposition, she's here to say no to things because she's here to preserve her individuality. So gate 38 says no to a lot of things because they want to preserve their individuality. Plus she's the manager. Like, she wants to be in control. They're here to control things on the material world. So it, pretty quickly I did a human design reading for her, and then realized, like, you got to tell me what you want to do. Like, I can help guide, I can help you, assist you, answer your questions, but what are you managing with that gate 21? What do you want to be in control of in this next 30 days when we work together? Like, where are you possibly inadequately managing your food, your habits?
Mhm.
So that's something that I want you to be in charge of. Like, I'm not here to tell you what to do because you have gate 38 at 39 and you don't want to be told what to do. So let's work in this regard together, where I'm not here to tell you what to do at all. In fact, I'm empowering you to be able to take control of that. And she loved that. She said that's when the flip switched working with me. And that really freed her to start to implement things like from a totally different mindset.
Mhm.
So yes, having people's human design would be amazing if all practitioners could see the energy running underneath to work with their clients on an individual level on their health and nutrition. And I do feel that this is where we're going. Like, feel so strongly about like health autonomy and individuality with health and nutrition. Everybody's different. This is why we're getting more access to like DNA testing, because everybody's just different. And then you make recommendations based off everybody's different DNA. Because what works for one person doesn't work for another person. And so I think human design is like a beautiful tool
Mhm.
on the energetic level
Yeah.
that would support that does support that.
Absolutely. Especially because that's making me reflect. I've been reflecting on my journey with fitness and nutrition a lot over the past week or so. Um, and the last time I worked with a coach on physical fitness and nutrition, like I've got a personal trainer right now. That's separate, but the nutritionist that I worked with years ago, and it's interesting to me because I was working with him right up until I got into a car accident. And after that car accident, I gained 70 pounds within 6 months. And I think part of it is because we talked about this before officially starting recording this episode, but like, I have all right arrows. I am meant to go with the flow. And the routine that he had me on was so structured. And I'm very good about following rules. Like, I know how to do that. I have mastered that. But it's like, if I do that too much, it's just like, I literally crashed and burned, and look what happened. So it's like, it would be so interesting if this had been implemented back then, but also just for people moving forward. Like, look at the entire chart, really customize the plans for people so that people don't burn out and then feel bad about the fact that they didn't succeed at something, right?
Yes, I love that you brought up the arrows.
Mhm.
That's such a good point, because the the arrows we're talking about they're called variables is their official name, but they're the arrows at the top of your chart, kind of by the head area. You're going to see arrows on the right and the left. And the ones on the left are related to digestion and your environment. And when they point to the right, you're meant to be in flow. And Emily and I both have all four arrows pointing to the right. So we are meant to be in flow with our entire life. We don't really prefer structure.
Yeah.
Like, if we want to go to the gym, it's best for us to wake up and decide when we want to go to the gym. We're not necessarily meant to go to the gym every single day at 8 a.m. Like, that rigidity starts to feel really suffocating for somebody who has those right facing arrows. And so working with clients to notice, just what you said, are they meant to have more structure or meant to be in flow, is huge for helping people. And then also to go deeper into the digestion, like what is your aligned digestion for you? And what is your preferred environment? Because I have found those to be um, interesting for people, because I think there's a lot of conditioning with the digestion and the environment, but also helpful, especially, for example, I've had some clients who their digestion is low sound and they're moms and it's loud at the table. Oh, yeah, you're low sound as
Yeah.
well. Yes. And what I notice, a determination is the official name, if you're looking it up on a chart, for what your preferred digestion or eating condition is. It doesn't tell you what to eat, but it tells you the right conditions in which you're going to digest most optimally, which then will help your brain function more optimally. And like Emily's is low sound. I've had quite a few clients with low sound, and oftentimes they have digestive issues. They're having a lot of bloating and gas and indigestion and just not digesting well, like intolerances to food. And so I right away zone in on that low sound, and we start experimenting with what would it be like to eat in an environment that's quieter or has a sound that you prefer.
Mhm.
And where's that fine line between low sound when it becomes too high sound and then it kind of freaks out your nervous system.
Mhm.
So I have found that to be so helpful and supportive for clients, especially with certain types of determination. The client that I told you about earlier that had the cross attention, her determination was alternating appetite, which is eating one thing at a time and not having your foods mix. And so that's what I helped her with when I would give her food suggestions or meal ideas, then that's what we were focused on, was how can we keep it separate for you and then consider what your kiddos is. And so that was really helpful for me to know that. And she was really interested in it because she already knew about human design.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think determination, digestion is really a great place. And the arrows, right or left, is a great, important thing to consider when I work with my clients. And then if anybody works with clients for that matter.
Right. I wonder too if you're actually adhering to that, especially for people like me who like I don't have consistent energy. My sacral is not defined. If focusing more on when I'm eating, really adhering to, like with me, low sound, if that actually gives me more energy to go do the things, like the fitness aspect, I'm gonna need to, I'm gonna be focusing on that in the next couple days here. That's interesting.
Yeah, experiment with that, because I would think that it would, because if you're not digesting properly, that means you're not breaking down your nutrients properly and assimilating them into your cells. So your body's not really getting what it needs to, because you're not breaking down your food properly if you're not in your right diet.
Right.
And then if you think about being bloated and having indigestion or even like a stomach ache, that's so uncomfortable. And you don't feel like going to the gym. You just feel like lying on the couch. Like you really can't do a whole lot.
Girl. Literally, did you see the light bulb moment?
Yes, I did. I saw it.
It's like
I love it.
hilarious because there are some times where I'll eat my meal and I'll have like the TV on or a podcast episode, and it's not like it's loud, but I've noticed after that I feel very lethargic. After that I don't, even if I know that I need to go do something, I don't want to do it. So then what do I end up doing? I sit on the couch for longer than I should.
Mm-hmm.
But those times when it's interesting for me because I'm low sound and then also my environment is artificial shores. So I've started, since I've been learning about this, eating at least more of my meals than not outside in the backyard, on that kind of border between my house and the backyard. So I've got that artificial shore plus the low sound, and that is actually when I feel the best.
Yeah, I love that. And the arrows, it does start with the determination, the digestion, but the environment is like the dependent arrow. So it's the bottom one. So So technically you're going to get the most energy, the most out of your digestion when you're in your right environment, plus then have the low sound on top of it.
Right.
Yeah. And when you're in your right environment, it will kind of give you like this sense of like, ooh, I feel good here. It might not necessarily feel like an energy boost, but it will feel more energizing when you're in the correct environment.
Right. This is fascinating.
This is so fascinating. So I have a question for you because I see you have an undefined ego center. The ego center is the little triangle in the body graph. It also is called the will center or the heart center. Will as in like willpower and motivation.
Mhm.
Heart, although the heart is not there, the heart is in the identity center, which is that big diamond in the middle. So I don't necessarily like to refer to it as the heart center, but I see this as like the ego dies to the heart through the channel 5125. That's the path from the ego, the material plane, to the soul. And so with this ego center, when it's undefined, which is 70% of the population approximately, they don't have consistent energy for willpower and motivation.
Mhm.
Versus 30% of the population approximately does have a defined ego center where they do make energy here. It's a motor, like I said earlier. So they technically, when their heart's in it, they're going to have the willpower and the motivation to like stick with a goal. And it's really good for people with a defined ego to set goals and stick with it. Versus an undefined ego, be really, really discerning about the goals that you set, because it can be really tempting to want to prove yourself like, oh yeah, I can do that, or I'll show up for you and do that. So then you set this goal for yourself. And then if your willpower is not there, then it doesn't happen. And then you can start to feel really bad about yourself.
Mhm.
So I'm curious for you as a personal trainer, where do you access this motivation to like, and quad right as well, to stick with getting to the gym and your exercise routine? Or what does that look like for you?
Good question. I think for me, it's shifted a lot. So before, like I've always been very good about getting to the gym, except for the times when I'm not. So, but if it all comes down to like, okay, why am I going to the gym? Like, why am I working out? Am I going because I want to look good for other people or prove that I can do this and that I can lift that heavy weight and like show other people up? Or am I doing it because it makes me feel strong and it makes me feel good? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm focusing on doing it to prove something to other people, I might be really good about it while I have that fire burning in me to prove something to people. But as soon as that goes out, it's like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't want to do this. This is like, ugh, I'd rather do something else. But it's been so much more consistent since I've had a shift from wanting to work out and look good for other people and have it be this kind of superficial thing to more of, oh, this makes me feel good. It gives me energy. And I'm doing it because I actually like it and it's fun. Like I've managed to find the fun in working out so that it's not a chore, which is very helpful for me also as a projector, because if I'm, especially with when I'm working with people, like even before that, I would find myself at the gym sometimes for like 2 hours and it didn't feel like that because it was fun for me. It wasn't work. But as soon as it shifts to I have to go to the gym because I need to work on this aspect of myself,
Yeah.
then it's like, especially as a projector, I only have the energy to work for, 3-4 hours a day. And
Mhm.
if the gym is taking that time, then by the time I get to my actual work, I'm exhausted. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. I love that. That makes so much sense. And grounding with your why
Mhm.
is so huge.
Yeah.
Yes. And I tell my clients this too, because if their why is only to tone their arms or their abs, yeah, I really have no interest in working with you. I will, but we have got to find another why,
Yeah.
because that's not necessarily sustainable. And there's so many other factors involved in health. In fact, the scale is not a great indicator of health at all. We want to be looking at more like gut health and mental energy and physical energy and those kind of factors versus just the number on the scale. In fact, I don't even have my clients weigh themselves.
Yeah.
I use a questionnaire. It's like a non-scale questionnaire where they rate themselves from 1 to 5 based off different physical ways that they might be feeling, like joint pain, inflammation, gut issues, this kind of thing. Confidence, even. I have a question about confidence on there. And how do they food police themselves, their level of guilt when they eat things, and how connected to their body are they with their feeling of fullness and their feeling of hunger. And so I use a lot of other ways to assess their health versus and avoid the scale for the most part. Now, if they want to weigh themselves on the side, that's totally fine. But I also make sure that they understand the difference between like muscle and body fat, because the scale doesn't show you that. So
Right.
finding their why, I love that. And I love that you're describing the fact that it actually gives you motivation and it keeps you connected to going to the gym on a consistent basis, even when perhaps the energy might not be there, but you have that why, that deep ingrained reason to be there.
Yeah.
And then finding the fun in it is so good too. And doing exercise that you love. Like, don't force yourself to go do something that you're not enjoying, because that's never going to last. I think people probably know that.
Right.
But also give yourself the ability to be flexible in it too. So one day you might not feel like lifting weights, but maybe you do feel like going on a walk with a friend, or maybe you feel like going to yoga class, or you like to go to bar class. So like, give yourself some variety. I think that's important too, based off your energy level, based off your mood. Um, People who have an undefined G center, like that big diamond in the middle, I also encourage them, if they're not going to a gym, but they want to go to a gym, they have to find a gym that feels right.
Mm.
They have to like the environment. It needs to feel good in that gym. Otherwise, it's probably not going to last.
Right. I
For
love it.
sure.
I
And
love.
I have a defined ego center.
Oh.
And and I do stay pretty consistent with my routine and my exercise. Even though I have right facing arrows, I do have my kind of my structure.
Yeah.
And if something else comes up, like I'm with my quad ride, I think it helps me be pretty flexible. I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll just move it to a different day of the week. So I know what I want to do during the week. And then if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I'm pretty good at flexing it.
Mhm.
And I also have a lot of different options that I give myself, like pretty much the ones I mentioned earlier: going to strength class, going to a yoga class, going on a walk. I like all of those things. So it just depends on what I'm in the mood for. But I do love to set goals, and I love to achieve my goals. And if I set a goal that my sacral said yes to, that I was like, yeah, I want to do that, and my heart is in it, like I feel like I can almost accomplish just about anything I want to, because that heart motor is like strong. Like when my heart's in it, it will make it happen. And I have the sacral energy to back it. And so I've been experimenting with like, well, what happens? What goes first? Like, if my sacral says yes, but my heart's not in it, what does that feel like?
Mhm.
Versus if my heart is in it, but my sacral is like, oh God, I'm tired right now. Like, what does that feel like? So that's something that I think is fun to look into if you have both of those defined. Um, but I
Noticed a difference
okay,
with that?
it's actually kind of difficult for me to notice the difference. So I think about, I have a Peloton, and this has been kind of the way that I've sussed it out a little bit more easily, is if mentally I'm like, God, I really want to work out right now. Like I really need to work out. Mentally, I'm like, I really need to. And my sacral is just like, oh, I'm lazy and tired right now. It's funny because I think my heart will win out in that. Well, I will make myself get on there, and then my sacral joins in. Like it's fun. I enjoy it. It feels good, and my sacral like kicks in.
Yeah.
So I've noticed it both ways, where my heart will like, you got to do this, Kelly.
Mhm.
And then my sacral will join. And I've also noticed it where my sacral is like, yes, we're doing this. And then my heart joins after the fact. Yeah, I don't know. They're also very simultaneous. So I think it's hard to know. I'd be curious what other people's experiences. I'm sure other people could probably articulate it a little bit better than I am. But I also, my only channel that defines my ego center is the 5125,
Mhm.
and it's subconscious for me. And so sometimes I think that it turns on when it turns on, and it's kind of elusive. Like I'm not sure when it's going to turn on. It's just very subconscious.
Right. I think it's interesting too, you brought up your mind, like when your mind is saying, oh, you should do this,
Yeah.
and you have an open mind. So it's like, is that the conditioning coming in?
My open head. It could be,
Huh.
but I also have a defined ajna, and it's all
Oh.
about structure and organization through the gate the channel that I have.
Hmm.
So I definitely think that ajna is much stronger than my open head center
Right.
is. Yeah. I can really feel when my defined ajna takes over and kind of hijacks my body, like hijacks me away from my spleen, hijacks me away from just feeling grounded in my body. I can feel that.
Right. This is just fascinating. I love this.
Yeah. So when I work with clients who I'm working with them for 30 days, if not more, and if they have an undefined ego center, which is the majority of people, I really work on that self-worth piece.
Mhm.
And I mean, what does that even, how do you define it? You're in charge of defining your own self-worth. So what does that feel like for you? And how can we work on that and improve that? And whenever you feel yourself having to prove something, I have nothing to prove is such an important mantra, and just noticing it and keeping it in check. And then noticing that your motivation will ebb and flow, but that doesn't mean that that's when you give up. That doesn't mean that you failed or that it's not going to work. It just means that it's not there right now. And that's okay. So we put systems in place for when it's not on, that motivation is not quite there for however long it lasts, that you can still be consistent or fairly consistent in whatever it is you're doing to help you reach your goals,
Mhm.
because it will ebb and flow. And I think that's nice for people to know, because when it is off, it's not anything to be worried about or scared about. It will come back.
Mhm.
It's just how you're designed. And I can sense when my clients it starts to turn off, that motivation. It's usually around like week 2. Like they're gun ho the first couple weeks,
Right.
and then it's off. And I feel that perhaps even me as their dietitian with a defined ego, this defined ego can even kind of be like a cheerleader, like a motivational type of person for them. And this is when I lean into that, where I step up. I'm like, you can do this. Like, it's okay. And I really try to support them on an emotional level as like their motivational support in that regard. And here's our other options. And so that's one of the ways as their practitioner, I feel like I can help them, is when I sense their motivation waning, I
Right.
can carry them in a way.
Mhm. That
It
just
just reminds them of their why.
right. Remind them of or why. And that just you talking about that reminded me of when you told me the other day about how the statistics with New Year's resolutions and how that lines up. You said like basically perfectly with the percentage of people who have their ego defined versus undefined.
I don't know the exact percentages, but I feel like there's such a connection between the people who stick to their New Year's resolutions and the people who don't, is probably quite close to 70-30, which is defined ego versus undefined ego.
Oh, that's
Isn't that fascinating?
it is.
Because I am somebody who can write down resolutions and stick with them.
And I am not. I'm like, I've gotten to the point where I don't even make New Year's resolutions because I know that like it's gonna fluctuate. And that I mean everything you said, I love how the willpower, it very much is applied to things like nutrition and fitness. But I've been having conversations with people who are struggling to stay engaged in anything that they're working on, like projects that they're creating, and focusing in on, okay, is your ego defined or undefined? And just trusting that if it's undefined, that motivation will come back eventually, but
Yeah,
just that it's not here right now doesn't mean that it's gone forever. Like, don't give
totally.
up, keep going, even if you need to take a break and like sit back for a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
And then also, just to add a layer to that, if they have an emotional wave,
mm,
also when the wave is at a low, that can be a time that they do want to throw in the towel as well. So then that could even be like doubly discouraging for people. So just to what you said earlier, when they can understand their underlying energetics,
mhm,
then it's almost like mentally they don't get so caught up in their head with what am I doing? Why can't I reach these goals? This is pointless. That self-talk that can easily come in, I think is minimized because they now understand that this is just their energy. And how can we optimize it? Because with everything that seems like they're working against it, or it seems like it's a negative, it's actually not. There's like a positive in all of this.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because the undefined ego, there's wisdom in that. There's a lot of wisdom in that undefined ego.
Right.
So how can we decondition enough to be able to access that wisdom? And like gate 21, we talked about it a little bit, but it is the manager and it likes to manage, it likes to be in control of stuff. In fact, people with gate 21 are really good at being in charge. And so I love leaning in on this gate, actually, if somebody has it, because I'm like, okay, what do you want to be in charge of in relationship to your nutrition, your shopping, your meal planning, your cooking? Are you in charge of that, or are you delegating that? Because I had one client whose husband was in charge of that, and she felt a little off because she had no control over what he was cooking and what he was making, and it wasn't the healthiest, she said, and it didn't really align with her nutrition goals. So she wanted to take a little bit of that control back so that she could eat in a way that supported what she wanted to accomplish.
Right. It's amazing how understanding your own energetics, like, I feel like people right now feel like everything in life is out of their control. Like things are just crazy in the world right now. But if like your human design, your energetics, if you understand that, it helps you gain control back in some way. It's like it's so empowering.
So empowering. It really is. So true.
Mm.
I also like to look at their profile because if they have a 1, 2, or 3, that's a different learning style. That's a different way that they're going to experiment. So the one line will maybe perhaps want more knowledge. They'll want a lot of the information. So I'll be teaching a lot more. And then the 2 line, they're naturals at things. So they're just going to kind of like jump in and start doing it. And it comes so easy to them. Oftentimes people with 2 lines, I see this might just be a coincidence because they're interested in nutrition, but often they are such good cooks and it just kind of comes naturally to them is what I've noticed with my clients if they have a 2 line. And I've noticed that I try to really call out to them what it is I'm seeing that comes so easily to them as a 2 line. One client I had, the app that I use with my clients is photo journaling. So they're just taking pictures of everything that they eat in an app that's made for dietitians. And all the pictures she was taking looked like they were gorgeous plates, like so beautiful, even with like garnishes. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I really saw that as her 2 line because she couldn't see it in herself.
Right.
And plus she was a protector. So she was a little oblivious to like her own skills and her own things that she was great at. And so I love to call that out in somebody and point it out in somebody. They're just like a natural at things and they just have to do it. And then the 3 line is all about experimenting. And I love that because I'm like, we're just going to experiment. We're going to see what works, see what feels good, see what doesn't feel good. And they're really open to that. And they're very resilient at like bouncing back. If it doesn't work, okay, let's shift and try it a different way.
Right.
So I do like to consider their 1, 2, or 3 profile line.
Yep. Have you noticed anything with the other ones too?
Yes. So like the 4s, I really emphasize like your people. Like, are you taking time to be around your people and are they healthy for you? And are they supporting you? Like your tribe is going to be so important as a 4 line and your connections are so important. So leaning into them, nourishing them in a really authentic way. So to me, it's more about like the social aspect of their life and their emotional needs and in that regard. Because if they have a 4 line and they're kind of isolated, maybe they're hermiting too much if they're a 2-4, like is there that balance? They're going to feel like something's off if they're not involved in their friendships and their connections. But then also when it comes to eating and making changes, it's almost like it's a new you. It's like a new version of yourself. You're saying goodbye to things that you used to lean on, for example, like you maybe used to lean on the sugar and you're saying goodbye to that. That's almost like a death of a version of yourself.
Mm.
And when they work with me, this can be a process for some people. It can also be quite easy for other people, but like they're in it. This is why they're working with me. They want a new version of themselves. Like they want to feel better. And we're creating new structure to support that new version of themselves. And at the same time, other people perhaps aren't as accepting of that new version of themselves, especially if maybe, for example, they all went to dinner all the time together. And now she's like, I don't really want to go to dinner all the time anymore. And so your people that you're around are so important. Like, do they support you, or are they wanting you to stay in the habits that are holding you back?
Right.
Especially within your own household.
Right.
And 5 line, the leaders. So this is interesting. I do talk about boundaries a lot with the 5 line, and boundaries are related to nutrition and health as well. And like overgiving and this projection field where people have these expectations of you and want you to solve all their problems. And so I can use that in a good way. Like, okay, what problems can we solve here? Like what's not working for you as the 5 line, but then also, are you being projected on? And usually this is kind of new information for people. They can feel that they've been projected on perhaps in their life, but I'm putting words now to it. And they're like, oh, that's what's happening. Okay. And so it's a new awareness where boundaries are so important. And what do you want? I'm like, what do you want first and foremost? Like, not what does your spouse want, not what do your kids want, but what do you want? And at least be aware of that first and foremost. And then the 6th line being the role model. Well, there are 3 line in the first 30 years. So depending on their age, that makes a difference. But then as the role model, yeah, this is a good one. Maybe you're a 4-6, so you have a 6th line and you're on the roof. So maybe you can give some insight, but I just think it's about being authentically you. So what does that look like? And accepting and loving yourself no matter what, like loving all the parts of you. This is for everybody, but especially a 6th line. You're here to role model authenticity. So if you're not comfortable with yourself or like the way you look, then that's not really being the role model that you're going to want to be for people. So no matter what, how can you love yourself no matter what? Love everything about yourself and also be doing work to make yourself healthier. I think the both really have to coexist of like both and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about the 6th line.
Interesting.
Do you have anything to add about the 6th line and like health and the body and nutrition?
I mean, I think just very much piggybacking on what you said, having that balance of like, why are you doing it? And like having it be coming from a place of authenticity. And I didn't realize it until you mentioned this. I feel like I'm constantly saying that. That's one of my channels, having like the repeating, I have to turn things over multiple times until it clicks. But I've been thinking a lot about how I'm on the roof stage of my 6th line right now. So I'm very much observing everything and seeing how, okay, I am acting as a role model. I never saw that before. And seeing if I am a role model, and it's the 6th line for me is unconscious, so I'm not always aware of it. Like I'm picturing like my nieces and acting as a role model for them. And in a way that when I was growing up, I didn't have that role model when it came to like nutrition and fitness, because we had like, if you looked at society, the ideal was the stick thin like woman. So it's like, okay, I think for me, it's just all about showing up in a way that's authentic to me, but also in a way that shows younger women that you don't need to be chasing after this ideal. Like, do what feels good for you and for your body. that's all that fucking matters. Like,
Yeah,
that's what it comes down
totally.
to.
Yeah, and getting away from that black and white mindset, the either or,
Yeah.
because that doesn't work either.
Mhm.
So both and. I do like both and statements. Like you can both love yourself so much
Mhm.
and have good self-talk about your body, body positivity, and also, go to the gym and be trying to gain muscle. Like you can do both.
Yeah.
And that's so important to have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not either or. Because when this is, this is a big thing with women who they'll say from an either or mindset, like when I get down to whatever weight, then I'll feel better. Then I'll be happier. Then I'll be more confident. And so I try to discourage them. I try to provoke them. That's my sun gate is gate 39 to like, let's look at this a little differently.
Mhm.
How can we embrace both?
Yeah.
Because that's where the sustainability comes around.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so important too, especially because recognizing that your body is going to change throughout life,
Yeah.
like you can't stop that from happening. Even if like, you have all the money in the world and you have the best plastic surgeon, like guess what? Your body's still going to change. Like it's going to happen. So yeah, loving yourself as you are in the moment, and also having these goals or having these things that you're wanting to accomplish.
Yeah. That are coming from that deeper why.
Right, exactly.
Like aging more gracefully,
Mhm.
aging more healthily, living longer.
Mm-hmm.
Those deeper reasons, being around for your kids more, and even just like wanting to shed old traumas that are no longer serving you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm. That's where the functionality of it comes into play.
Totally. I had a mental projector client who was a man, older gentleman, such a cool, amazing guy. And he was a rancher. And when I first did my 15-minute discovery call with him, I would have pegged him as a manifesting generator because he was a rancher and he was a real estate agent and he was opening a brick and mortar. He was doing a lot of different things, this multi-passion tendencies of manifesting generators. So when he decided to work with me, I tell them about human design and they give me their birth information. And he was a mental projector. I was dying. I was like, no way. Because it's so rare. It's something like, 2 to 5% of the population. And I could just really almost see his chart reflected in his physical body. Like his mind is so busy and active and he's so smart and like so friendly and conversationalist. And yet he was holding on to a lot of body weight and his blood sugars were off, and he said, even in our 15-minute discovery call that before I even knew he was a mental protector, that he was very sensitive to other people's energy. He was very much an empath. He admitted that even this rancher. And I was like, that's so cool that he's feeling this. So as I dove deeper and deeper and working with him and like the fears from the undefined spleen and the overworking and the sacral center and the pressure from the root and then taking on all the emotions and the G and then the solar plexus, like there was a lot going on. And he had built basically this energetic barrier to protect himself that was body fat.
Right.
And so helping him understand that he was so special and so freaking smart with that defined head and ajna, and that it was safe to be able to let your guard down a little bit. And it's actually quite a superpower to feel other people's stuff as you're relating with them and understanding what's yours and what's not yours. So there was a lot that we talked about that was not even anything related to nutrition. But nutrition is going in the background. Like I've set the foundation with them and he's working on that and the blood sugars. And then also we're talking about this stuff over here. He felt so validated. He was literally speechless when I was describing to him his energy. He's like, no one has ever said this to me in my life. And growing up in the era he grew up in, and especially as a male, that was very conditioned.
Yeah.
That was a very conditioned part of him. Yeah. So I have so many examples of how human design has helped my clients. It's unbelievable.
I feel like I'm gonna need you on here again, girl. Like, we could dive so deep into this. I love it. And it's like, it just, that example too, just goes to show like how impactful this is. Like, yes, human design can help you understand your energetics and can help you with your nutrition and everything, but it impacts so many aspects of your life. And it's like, it's not limited to one subsection of society. Like,
Right.
literally everybody. I don't care your age, your race, your gender, your political affiliation, like your religion, whatever. This will help you. Like,
Yeah. If you're open to it.
yeah.
Yep. If you're open to it.
Awesome. Well, I feel like that's a good place to stop for this time. Because, like I said, would love to have you on again.
I would love to come back again.
Yes. So, as we wrap that up, where can people find you? How can they work with you? Because I feel like people are going to want to. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a website. It's Kelly, Kelly, Harrington, Harrington, RD.com. And I have blogs on there. I love to blog about human design and nutrition. And right now I'm blogging on each of the gates and what the associated body part is with the gate. And then like through my health and nutrition lens, how people can support that. And this is where I have my human design offerings, because I do also do human design readings. And then my nutrition offerings are also on there when they can work with those, so they can work with me on nutrition, but also I'm incorporating human design, and I give a human design reading with that nutrition program. It's just, I do 30 days with that, because in my 24 years of experience, one and done does not work when it comes to chronic things, weight loss, GI stuff, autoimmune. Like you need a long time. You need 30 days to get it going. So that I've found to be super helpful. So yes, you can find me on my website. And then I also have, I'm active on Instagram the most. And my Instagram is Dietitian Human Design.
Perfect. And I will link that in the show notes for everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Emily. It was so great.
And there you have it. Season 2, Episode 2. It's a wrap. Now, this is where I come in and play. Stay tuned for a director's cut. The one for this episode is going to be a little bit different than what I have planned for some other ones, because obviously this is a longer episode. The director's cut for this particular episode will be me sharing how this conversation has helped me embody my design. Which, if you were paying attention, I dropped a clue in the intro, right? Take a look at the show notes if you are interested in working with either Kelly or myself. Embodied design, 1010. Would recommend.